Good morning, everyone. My name is Ligaya Domingo. I'm the Racial Justice and Education Director at SEIU Healthcare 1199 Northwest, and I'm currently the first Vice President of APALA. So our first panel this morning is called Growing a Strong APALA. On this panel, we're going to be talking about our experiences in building APALA nationally. I'd like to welcome our speakers on our panel to the stage, please. Okay, I'm going to start with introducing our speakers for our panel. Our first speaker is Catherine Cat General, who is she is currently the field director at the International Federation of Professional Technical Engineers, Local 21, representing professional and technical employees in areas throughout the Bay Area of California, and has served the APALA San Francisco's chapter president since 2021. Our second speaker is Wei Chen, who is the Civic Engagement Coordinator and Chinese Youth Organizing Project Coordinator at Asian Americans United. Our next panelist is Eunice Howe, who has already been introduced several times, but she is the APALA Seattle chapter president and a lead community and political organizer with Unite Here Local 8. And our last panelist is Ching Wei, and she is an organizer with Unite Here Local 26 and the president of the Massachusetts APALA chapter. So today on our panel, we are going to be talking about the history of APALA in our chapters and the ways in which we have gone about our organizing, working through our chapters to build a stronger labor movement, to build voice for workers. And we're going to have essentially 3 questions that everyone is going to engage in so that you can hear what our experiences have been in building APALA. So the first question for our panelists, and we'll start with Kat, is how did you become active in APALA, and what made you want to build your APALA chapter?
Thank you, Ligaya. Oh, hold on, mic check. Hello, can you hear me? Okay, great. So I got involved with APALA. I actually started with the AFL-CIO Organizing Institute, and that really was my doorway into the labor movement. And through that experience, I met a lot of APALA organizers and leaders who have mentored me over the years. And so that really is why I do what I do today. And I do want to pay this forward and figure out ways on how APALA can continue to do this work, and we build this movement that we're all in.
I can go next. This is Wei Chen, go by he, him, his. I am not a union member. But I am a community organizer. But I was trained by Chu, United Here leader, trying to echoing me became a union organizer. However, I became a community organizer. But I think that was very important because union organizing and workers organizing cannot do that without a community base and community ground, right? Because we have a lot of ununionized and underground workers hanging out there. They're looking for a more secure plan to advocate for them. So related to APALA, actually I was attending in 2017's convention. I was one of young worker attendee, no delegation. But it was amazing. I see the whole bunch, Asian American worker union leader come together to fight for our right. So there was a point that I feel like, wow, this is the power of organizing.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. So I building our APALA is starting 8 years ago on 2015. So I came to San Diego, the first convention 8 years ago. That is, was my first year founding member of our APALA in my chapter in Massachusetts. I never thought 8 years later it changed a lot. So I never think about I can speak up in time of the national convention today. But here I'm here today, so I'm so excited for that. So in Massachusetts, is no APALA 8 years ago, but this year, 2023, we are the third biggest chapter in Massachusetts in Boston. So my experience, I think, for the APALA, how I'm gonna want to build the APALA, is I think it's like a thing about 2018, we are on strike and make the APALA is difference. So take back the power of, I think it's 2018 on the strike. 2018, I've been seeing all across a lot of teachers on strike. And the same year of the 2018, all the Marriott hotel workers on strike across 7 cities. I'm the one of the striker. In Boston, we have a 46 days strike. So in the same year, 2018 was breath of the air. When thousand workers on strike, teachers on strike, and hotel workers on strike, it changed a lot. So in Marriott, this biggest company in the world. So I'm really proud we can lead the strike in 2018. My mom was housekeeper. My brother was houseman. My sister-in-law is a housekeeper. So on the strike, it's hard. I could not pay my bill. I could not pay my mortgage. As I could not pay my kids on the tuition. As it's really hard. It was struggled time with our families and with our community also. Because API workers are 25% of hospitality industry. So really strikes change a lot. That's why I feel it's like, I want to build up the APALA chapter in Massachusetts. Thank you.
So I got first involved in APALA in about 2010, about 13 years ago, when Amy Leong asked me for a coffee meeting, a one-on-one, right? We know what that means. And I was like, great, because she was also on my target list because I was an activist with United Students Against Sweatshops. And she was recruiting me to come to a Unite Here and APALA. It was like a hotel workers town hall. And so in this meeting, we were organizing each other to come to each other's events. But I guess Amy won because I'm here 13 years later. So thank you, Amy, for that. And I love being part of APALA because it's a place where people look like me, where I can have mentors from my culture and my community. It really feels like home. And as a lead community and political organizer, I've been taught and I learn every day the power of transformational partnerships, not just transactional relationships. And that is something that I take with me every day in my heart.
Thank you. So the next question is, how have you built your APALA chapter? And what are some of the key issues that have built your chapter? And how have workers been developed and empowered through your chapter? And I'll start again with Kat.
So before I get into the history of the founding of the San Francisco chapter, I do want to acknowledge that today, August 4th, marks the anniversary of the last stand at the International Hotel in 1977, the I Hotel. The I Hotel was a fight that was a 9-year-long campaign where 150 elder Filipinos, manongs we call them, and elderly Chinese tenants from the Manilatown district in San Francisco fought against eviction. 3,000 people created a human brigade and were brutally removed by riot police in a 3 a.m. eviction raid on August 4th, 1977. The widespread grassroots support for this campaign has made this a symbolic event in Asian American and housing advocacy history. In this spirit and solidarity of this struggle, this is what I draw on in terms of my local history in San Francisco when I think of what is possible if we could find reasons to work together instead of coming up with excuses on why we can't work together, right? And so with that, like many histories in our community, they are passed on orally through our generations. This history of the San Francisco chapter of APALA is no different. Shout out to Patty Tamura. Say hi to all the nice people, Patty. Patty is currently our chapter treasurer, but was also chapter president around 2006 and really helped pull together this list of names and histories that I'm going to read through because I want to make sure I get it right because it just shows an example of what can work if we put our minds to it. So these are the list of names and unions they represented in terms of the group that started the San Francisco chapter. So it was Richard Leung from SEIU Local 87. He was the first chapter president of San Francisco. Katie Kwan from the International Ladies Garment Workers Union. Bill Wong from the United Brotherhood of Carpenters. Bill Jung from the Transportation Workers Union, Local 250. Maria Abadesco and Patricia Lee from SEIU Local 790. George Kursart from APWU. Beverly Imahara from OPEIU. And so this group of people did the work that created the bylaws, set up chapter meetings, but one of the most political important things that they did was get us a seat at the San Francisco Labor Council as a voting delegate. And so we've been working on just cultivating that relationship in our area. And we've kind of, through lived experience, have come up with a list of components to build a strong chapter that I just would like to read so that folks have this information. So one thing is you got to have a diversity of unions participating. Building a chapter is not dependent on one union to make it happen. It takes a coalition of unions. You got to have a presence in the local labor council and its events. So the leadership of the chapter or even its members of the chapter have to be delegates to the Central Labor Council in your area and or on the executive committee. You also need experienced, recognized leaders. Who you have on your team matters and the skill set that they bring to the table, as well as their ability to access resources. Knowledgeable leaders who know how to drive funding requests and give APALA a presence in the unions they are affiliated with is very important. As a baseline, membership signups, membership engagement, having chapter leadership and members that can sign up new members and keep growing the membership base is very vital to its success. Also having events and a program that draws people who want to become members of the chapter and get involved. And then as a fundamental thing, we gotta always be raising money, right? Fundraising is very, very important. Not all unions have the resources to support individual members to attend conventions, attend trainings, attend events. And additionally, the chapter does need resources to run appropriate and effective programming and activities in the local API community that makes sense and that fit into the fabric of that area. Today, as a chapter, we do continue to work on strengthening each of these components in San Francisco. Since I was elected president in 2021, there are two events that I'd like to share that really helped shape the chapter that we are today. The first one was right after we were elected, we participated in the San Francisco Labor Council May Day March on May 1st, 2021. I was elected with an all-woman AAPI chapter leadership team, and for my first term. And with that, it came with new ideas, a renewed commitment to the work of APALA at a time of rising violence in the AAPI community, especially against AAPI women. Marching as a chapter on May Day was very re-energizing for our folks who participated. Being together and marching with the labor community in San Francisco really helped to bring our chapter together and center us on building the chapter. The second thing I'd like to cite is we had an awards event this year on May 6, 2023. We recognize a previous emeritus president, Norm Ten, who's here, I think, in the room. Yes? Oh, he might have stepped out. Okay, he stepped out, okay. And we also recognize Supervisor Connie Chan from San Francisco. But what was pivotal about, yeah, thank you. What was pivotal about this is that we actually raised over $15,000.
Wow.
And that came from union sponsorships, like asking our union allies to give, just give, right? And it wasn't just union allies. We did get funds from nonprofit organizations in San Francisco who were aligned with our values. And so with that, we were able to send delegates to this convention who could not get sponsorships from their unions, and they are here today and benefiting from the money that we raised. And what was great about this awards event was that it was a reconnecting for labor and the nonprofits in our area to figure out, what are we gonna do in this next year? We're gonna have a tough year in San Francisco. I'm sure everyone has been watching the news, seeing what they're talking about in San Francisco in terms of the economy, right? In terms of safety issues. And so we need to find a way to come together and try to solve these problems collectively instead of trying to go solo and trying to solve them. And I think it's gonna be those personal relationships we sustain with each other that's gonna keep us together during the hard times. Because when you can pick up the phone and call someone and be like, hey, right? You just kind of cut through the bullshit. I'm just gonna say, you cut through the bullshit and you have the direct conversation and you can figure it out. And that definitely is my style of leadership. And so that's what I'd like to say.
Thank you so much, Kat. It's a great reminder about how so much of building our chapters is back to basics organizing. So next, I'm going to ask Eunice Howe from the Seattle chapter to share about her experiences.
Thank you, Lagaya. I'll talk about 4 buckets of work that we do: civic engagement, education, racial justice work, and shop floor fights. We've been so lucky and blessed to have support from National APALA to do civic engagement work, and has allowed us to hire young people from the community as fellows and interns. In 2016, we had a citywide fight to set new hotel worker health and safety standards. And this hotel, this Westin, this Marriott, was one of the big centers of that. We passed a law that allowed panic buttons for workers who work in rooms alone, room load reductions, job security, and health insurance benefits. And our amazing fellow back then, Gabby, was the one who got out the vote. And I'll tell you a quick story. She talked to one of the housekeepers here who had worked here for over 30 years and is a citizen, and nobody had ever talked to her about registering to vote. And so she registered to vote for the first time in her life, got to vote yes, right? On this health and safety bill, and win protections for her and her coworkers at work, right? If we didn't do that work to target Asian women workers, right, we wouldn't have gotten out the vote like that. We also do a lot of education around Asian American labor issues. We have a lot of educators and folks who did American ethnic studies in our chapter, and so when the tragedy of the murders of the spa workers happened a couple years ago, we put together presentations to educate the community about that it's not a one-time thing, that there's actually a legacy of racism against our people and our workers. We also have lifted up racial justice work and led that in the county and state labor councils, working on task forces, doing things as basic as pushing for demographic collection, how many of our members are actually part of the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander population, and how do we move forward leaders of color. And of course, I cannot forget to talk about shop floor fights, right? We have SEIU healthcare workers here from 1199 Northwest, Angel and Carmen and other folks. We were walked out with them on strike 2 years ago, right? Awesome. We have Embassy Suites hotel workers here, Justin and Lisa. We were with them on the picket line to win our first contract there and to organize the union, right? And we're gonna, spoiler alert, we're gonna go walk and march later today in support of that fight, right? And really it's like through fights on the shop floor and in the community where we advance our leaders. I'll close with that. The cross-industry solidarity is beautiful. The hotel standards for workload that we set for hotels inspired the healthcare workers who also do housekeeping, right, to set fair and safe standards. So, si se puede, yes we can.
So we've just heard from two of our more mature chapters, and we're gonna move to hear about two of our chapters that are newer to the APALA family and hear about how they have grown and strengthened to be chapters. So I'm gonna go to Ching next to talk about the Massachusetts APALA chapter.
Thank you. In our APALA, I think have to fight for the workers, their unions, but not just that. Our chapter have to fight for the workers, their community also. I'm very proud of how strong our chapter is. I'm proud that APALA is not afraid to say that if something is wrong. So here is the example. 2 months ago, my coworker Henry Wang was arrested by FBI. The FBI says he's the foreign agent for Chinese government. But I know that it's not true. I have known him and his wife for many years because they were both co-workers in my hotel. He was on strike together with me in 2018. He's also active in the Chinese community in Boston. And he speaks up to say that U.S. should not go to war with China. But because our government says that China is enemy, now normal workers like Henry get targeted. After he got arrested, no one was willing to help him. No one was willing to even talk about his case. Everyone was afraid. Everyone thought that if I speak up, FBI will come to my house next. Every organization was silent. I'm also proud of my chapter because we were the first organization in Boston, API community, to say that what is the BI is doing is wrong. Henry is only the one example. There are now so many Chinese Americans being targeted. Like the South Asian community after 9/11. There is racist. I'm so proud of APALA because last month the executive board voted for support the position. And if your union or organization can cite the position, please to find me later. Look at all of the Asian and Pacific Islanders. Look at how they try to make us afraid. so that we can shut up. Now it's even more important to speak up also. Thank you.
Great. And our last speaker is Wei. And Wei is from the Philly chapter, which is one of our newest chapters.
Thank you. Now I understand why I'm the last one to speak, because we are younger chapter. So our chapter is pretty young, and we started around 2019. Well, after 2019 convention in Las Vegas, and after all the convention, and I and Sophie, as one of our co-founding members for the APALA Philly chapter, we just feel anxious, like look that everybody bring their chapter people to the convention. We don't have a chapter. We only have 2 people from Philly. And then we feel like we need to bring our delegation to the convention next time. And then COVID hit. And then we, now, today we bring 6 delegates from the, 6 people from Philadelphia chapter. And I'm very proud of that. So in Philadelphia chapter, our work and the issue that we're working on is also fall into different buckets. One is about the leadership development, especially about the youth and young leadership development, because it's very significant that we have a strategy for passing our leadership from younger generation and newer generation, younger generation worker and younger generation leader to stepping into the labor movement and to the movement advocate for our community beyond that labor. It's very clear that labor strike, workers' strike is a human right. But it's very important while we fight for workers' right and labor's right, we are also fight for gender justice. And we also fight for language justice. We also fight for social justice, racial justice in our working place. Am I right? That is the reason why that we have to create a leadership structure, and we have to continue educate ourselves and educate our leaders to continue grow. So continue to understand and to learning about undocumented worker and ununionized workers' struggle is very significant, because this is how we get bigger and stronger and get our movement powerful, because we need to be inclusive. So we have to keep, talk to our community member to understand about what kind of issue they care about. So the third bucket is about how we, third bucket is about how we're shaping our power. We see the convention, we see the chapter is so dedicated and so powerful, and how we're using workers' power to influence the issue that we care about is very significant. So get out to vote and encourage our people to vote, and educate the candidate how to serve Asian community and API worker is very significant, right? So this afternoon at Eunice and I, and we have a workshop. Please come to our workshop. This is not an advertisement. But the last not least is fighting for the issue that the community care about. We know that we have a neighbor chapter, neighbor organization, but without grassroots in the community, that's impossible, right? We have to continue to understand that what is a real issue that the worker, undocumented community, and in LEP speaking, non-English speaker community, what they care about, right? In order to understand that, how we fight for the power for our community. For example, in this moment, Philadelphia, the biggest issue that we face is about overdeveloping. The 76er basketball team, all of you know, right? They're trying to build a new arena near Chinatown, and they're going to damage our community. Many people know that the parking gonna kill in Chinatown, the traffic gonna kill in Chinatown. The overdevelopment of the increased property price and gentrification will force Chinatown out. DC Chinatown is one of example. When you go to DC Chinatown, you see a lot of Chinese sign, but you don't see Asian people walking around. That is a symbolism. That is a role model that a community being destroyed by the developer. It's not about a stadium. It's beyond that. A stadium, how stadium going to provide union job or not, or providing the job, union job going to support people of color work or not. It's more about the thing the developer, the billionaire give it to us, but we lost more than they give it to us, right? If this is something that if this is our labor movement wants, and we need to rethink about it. That's why we need to stand up and fight back against oppression. We need to stand up, fight against the billionaire. They're using different strategy to divide us between union and between the community. They always come up with a different kind of thing to divide us, right? We have to come together very strong to fight against that. So I'm not gonna put in more advertisement here, but I'm gonna have a resolution later about this topic.
Thank you, Wei. So what I heard from our panelists is that they identified key issues that they have organized around in their chapters, brought people together collectively to fight for those issues, and that's how they've built their chapters. So I think those are really important lessons for all of us as we think about how we build a stronger APALA, that it's really about bringing people together collectively around the issues that we care about. That's what organizing is truly about. So the last question for our panelists is really thinking about our future and thinking about some of the issues that they've been organizing around and their vision. And the question is, what do you see as the role of APALA in empowering AAPI workers in your community? And I'll go back and start with Kat and go down the line.
So historically speaking, APALA has been that bridge between labor and the AAPI community. And I would say just in my recent lived experience, I'd like to see a renewed commitment from APALA to really train and mentor union staff and union members to sustain this growing movement. And I say deliberately staff and rank and file leaders, because when I read that list earlier of the group of folks who founded the San Francisco chapter, they were both staff and union leaders, elected leadership as well as paid union staff. And it really takes that blend of folks to make this happen. And so, I mean, I know that APALA can play a significant role in how we shape this and what it looks like and how we do it. I'm definitely interested in meeting people during convention who are like-minded and really want to do this so we can actually do the work and get beyond the talking.
So I think after we won the strike in my union, so my lead was asked me on staff to my local. So I said no, because I think my English is not enough. I'm not smarter than enough. But my APALA people, they just always bear me up to say, you have to do it. Because when I look along my local, they are not like me. They are white, they are students, they graduate college. But I look at me, I only finished my middle school when I grew up. So I think I am not smarter to do this. But always, APALA, our chapter, they're always behind me. They always like support me. They say, yeah, Ching, you can do that.
That's right, Ching. That's right, Ching. Yeah.
So now I'm on my local already 5 years beyond staff. And the extent to that is we have, because the Mai is the first example. So now is our local have a lot of people they committed to lead the fight. So my coworker is Choi. She's the striker, Amira Cho. Now she's the second Lincoln fighter to work in our locals on staff. She's here. So we have Sai Hua, who is like a full-time working our local also to lead the counter fight. We have I forgot it's a Venice. He's come up for full-time to lead the casino worker fight. They just got the contract, 5 years, $10. It's amazing. So also we have a son. He's not here today, but he come up from our chapter. He's helping Seattle, what is the dining hall workers fight for the union. So he's not here today, but he come up to sacrifice times and leave his city to come here to help. And also we have like 1199 workers, the folks down there. They are API workers. They bring the union in their workplace a few years ago. They are leading the counter fight a couple months ago. So our chapter have a lot of Lincoln fighters to working with us now. So APALA is make us stronger and to feel could make that difference. Thank you.
As I mentioned multiple times, like Philadelphia chapter is still very new. We are working on very hard to continue build our base in Philadelphia. We're trying to build a very strong and grass and base in Philadelphia. A base when we became a tower, nobody can shaping us around. It's very important to have a strong foundation and to understand that what is our political direction, what is our organization future, right? So we need to understand about what is the issue that we need to continue to understand and continue to learning about what community needs. And by our strategy is working with the different Asian organizations, talk to them, right? Introduce us to them and working with them, helping to educate them about the workers' right and also to learn from them what kind of issue that we should be focused, right? This is very important for us. And to be honest, like, our organization, our chapter just gets stabilized because a few months ago, because convention, we have to come up with a new leadership. So a few months ago, we just our first elected chapter president, Kim Din. Shout out to her. Yeah. So, the most important and they tell me is our chapter need to move in together. We need to move in together. Yeah.
Ditto everything that other folks have said. APALA has really transformed and pushed myself as a leader. As a woman and as a Chinese Malaysian American woman, I've been taught to respect my elders, to be quiet, to not rock the boat. Who's heard of that before from their family or community, right? And so I never thought I was ready to be a leader and step up, but Tracy Lai pushed me, right? And I told her no so many times, but she was relentless and the chapter was relentless in saying, we believe in you, right? We trust you and you deserve to be a leader. And that was so powerful, right? And so I feel like our role and power as APALA is to not just build the path, not just forge the path, but we are pioneers who our duty is to widen the path and for others who come after us, right? That's a quote from Sister Shawnee Wheeler. I don't think she's here today, but she's one of the leaders of the local county labor council. And that's what I truly believe the power of APALA is. That's right.
So this has been a really powerful panel. We've heard these stories about how folks have developed their own leadership, developed others' leadership through the power of APALA. And I think that's what brings us all in the room today, whether this is your first convention or, I don't know, Stephen, how many conventions you've been to, almost all of them, I think. We have to continue coming together and finding strength with each other. That's how we're going to change our labor movement. That's how we're going to build more power for workers in our society. So let's give it up for this panel. Thank you so much.